You're in the market for a 1-inch sensor flagship phone. Well, you've got two choices if you're after the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. That is the Vivo X90 Pro Plus or the Xiaomi 13 Pro. So both of these powerhouse phones do have that new Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. Very quick. It's got the improvements with the RAM and UFS 4.0 storage. Now I'll be going over their battery life, charge times, the display quality, some tests like loudspeakers, the displays in sunlight, which is going to fare the best, the UIs, their performance, benchmarks. So let's take a look at the design and the features now of both of these phones. We do have a 6.7 8-inch screen with the Vivo, and it is a 6.7 3-inch size screen with the Xiaomi. Now, we've got in-screen fingerprint readers, but the Vivo is the superior fingerprint reader, has a wider area, and it just simply works the best that I've ever tested with in-screen fingerprint readers. The Xiaomi in-screen fingerprint reader is also very good, and I haven't really had any issues with it, but occasionally it might not read my finger, where the Vivo X90 Pro Plus is just superb every single time. It's, as mentioned, just the best that I have used. So we have metal frames around the outside of both of them. You can see there. So we have on that side, there's no volume up and down buttons. You can see some antenna lines there, curved rear to them, curved front displays, and the metal volume up and down power button there, all made out of metal. And they feel very good build quality to them. So we've got about 220 grams with the Vivo versus about 229 with the Xiaomi. A little heavier because of the ceramic they've used. Battery capacities are similar. So we have with the Vivo here, that's 4,700 milliamp hours versus 4,820 milliamp hours. Bit of a spoiler here, I find the smaller battery capacity actually has the best battery life, and it's down to ROM optimization, I think, and the screens and whatnot. So cameras on the rear, both of them have the same Sony IMX, the 989, that's the 1-inch type sensor. So with this, we have Zeiss Optics f1.8, a brighter lens versus the Leica, which is f1.9. There's not much of a difference there at all. And we've got laser assisted focus with the rear microphone here, but the microphones, they've got both of them on the top with the Xiaomi. IR transmitter, there's an IR transmitter here, the other mic there, and it looks like there's two IR transmitters, but in fact, there's just a little hole cut out for the loudspeaker. So both of them have dual loudspeakers. So just back with the cameras, there is a bit of a difference here with them. So we have a 3.5 times periscopic camera with the Vivo. Xiaomi uses not a periscopic camera, but a 3.2 times optical zoom camera. So all three of those cameras there, the ultra wide, the zoom, and the main, 50 megapixels, versus a 50 and a 64 megapixel zoom camera, that 3.5 times, and a 48 megapixel ultra wide. Now the ultra wides do have focus with them, dual tone LED flashes there as well. Now which camera module looks the best here? All subjective. I don't know really. I think I like actually the Vivo overall, all with the camera module look, but they're very different styles. So yeah, it's all personal taste, of course. So down the bottom here, we've got Type-C ports. Now big difference here because we have USB 2 with the Xiaomi, no video out, versus USB 3.1 or 3.2, I believe it is. And that's got video out. Now they both take dual nano SIMs, downwards firing speakers, the antenna lines. They look very similar here. So no micro SD card support, no 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. Both of these Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 flagships do support wireless charging. So we have 50 watts on both of them, and they both fully charge wirelessly in around about 40 minutes, or just under 40 minutes, which is not bad at all. And they do have 80 watts wired charging versus 120 watts. This is the fastest at around about 19-20 minutes with the Xiaomi to fully charge its battery. Then the displays. This is where we could have that difference in the battery life, the Vivo being a little better, because this is an LTPO4 AMOLED versus an LTPO OLED. Now, they're very similar in the colors. They can both present 1 billion colors, 120 hertz, Dolby Vision on both of them, HDR10, and we've got a maximum brightness of 1900. This is peak sunlight mode. When you're in the sun, you can just burst this for a short period, and then 1800 with the Vivo. So when you look at the spec sheet, the Xiaomi is brightest, but you don't really see that difference in person. Like right now, I've got both of them in the sun here, direct sunlight, and Even though maybe the Xiaomi's looking a little brighter here, or sometimes the Vivo, it could be down to the screen protectors, but they're really about the same in person when you look at them. Now, the banding you're seeing happening right now, that's just to do with the camera shutter rate, nothing to do with the actual phones. You don't see that. Both of them do not, however, support DC dimming. They don't seem to have that setting at all. And you might see a little bit of flicker sometimes with, well, I've noticed with the Xiaomi, maybe I might see a bit of flicker, but not with the Vivo. When you go into displays here, we've got the same kind of settings, all right? So both of them have a WQHD resolution, so you can select that. Now, by default, it's not on with the Xiaomi, and neither is it with the Vivo 2 as well. Now, do you notice that difference? You do when you look really closely, and it's standard kind of distances, like where my camera is currently. The 1080p compared to running 1440p, you don't notice it so much when you're using the phone, like not right up close. And it does take a huge hit on the battery life. So it's down to choice again that whether you want better battery life or you want to have a sharper looking screen. Now, refresh rates on both of them, we only sadly have 60 or 120 is the option. None of them have a in-between sweet spot, 90 hertz, which I would love to see, is not present here. So they are excellent screens, both of them. You cannot really go wrong with them. And my pick would be, because the touch response just seems a little better, is the Vivo screen for me. And it does have, of course, that, well, you could say better tech, with the refresh rate should be dropping down to like 1 hertz with the LTPO4 versus the LTPO. Maybe that's got a better battery saving, and why I'm seeing that discrepancy. Well, such a large difference in battery life between these two, which I'll talk about soon. Both Xiaomi and Vivo here run Android 13. We've got MIUI 14 from Xiaomi, which is very new, versus Origin OS, because this Vivo is the Chinese import model. So both of them at the moment are not global versions yet. Now, this will be coming out globally, I believe, maybe, crossing my fingers, or at least the X90 Pro will be out also about the same time as the Xiaomi, which will be around late February, I believe. I don't have confirmed dates or anything for that. Just take that as an approximate date there and an estimate from me. That's all. So Origin OS, it has got a lot of little quirks and things that I don't particularly like about it, but the optimization, I must say, is better than Xiaomi so far. Now, of course, firmware updates can change all of this, so I'm just going to take it as my time now, having used both of these for quite a while. I've had this for a week and this now for quite a few weeks, that it's just to me that definitely it's Origin OS that is a lot faster and smoother and quicker. They both have similar kind of options, toggles and everything seem to come in nicely, but where I sometimes see a couple of little hiccups in the animation still happening. Yes, with Xiaomi, I have seen it. Now, it's not as bad as MIUI 13 and what I've complained about before with some of the other phones. It's another area where I say optimization, it just feels like it's more refined and just better with the Vivo here when it comes to just the fluidity of the whole ROM. Now, both of them have aggressive task managing. You can't really use the full 12 gigabytes of RAM with this one versus 8 because things get closed off in the background anyway, and you do need to end up relaunching. Touch gestures on both seem to be pretty good, and it's again the Xiaomi that isn't quite as good with the touch response as I was talking about earlier with the screen. So my win here is for the features and what is on offer, MIUI 14, yes, but then for the stability and speed, Origin OS is better. But neither of these are really my favorite Chinese skin for Android. I think Color OS is probably the best and better than MIUI and Origin OS. But for these phones, do not come with Google Play installed because they are the Chinese versions. They're import models here that I do have. The global versions will, of course, have it already there. But the framework's there. You just need to install the Google Play APK file. Once you do that, you enter your credentials and everything, and away you go. We've got it working, which you can see here is working really well on both of them. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about the haptics, that we've got a very good haptics motor with the Xiaomi. I like the buzz that I'm feeling is maybe a tad stronger than what we had with the Vivo, but they're very, very similar here. Now, this is a good look here at the bezels and the screen. You can see the Vivo's a little more squared off here too with that. Now, I've got a couple of benchmarks and other things I want to run through, but before I get onto that, you can see I've got Netflix installed, and I do have Camera 2 API installed on both of them. So we've got Camera 2 API, if you're interested, full support with both. Netflix, it does work with Dolby Vision, HDR10 on both of them, and yes, full HD. They both have a Widevine Level 1 cert for Amazon Prime Video, Netflix, Disney Plus. All of those streaming services are supported at full HD on both, which is great. Now, the Vivo X90 Pro Plus has been out a little longer than the Xiaomi, but not by much at all. It's on its second firmware, where we just have one firmware that's come through with the Xiaomi. Now, when you first get these, I've got both of them, 256 gigabytes of storage. You have approximately, here you can see 226 gigabytes free versus 220 or so. So 220 with the Xiaomi. Remember, no micro SD card support, so go for the storage capacity that you're going to need. I think for most people, 256 should be enough, but there's the 512 gigabyte option as well. Now, it is UFS 4.0 spec they do use on both, and very fast drives. There is a bit of a difference here, as expected. You're never going to get the same kind of speeds due to just the physical differences in UFS 4.0 and, of course, optimizations they may have with the UI. Now, you'll see that the random reads and the writes are faster. The sequential reads a little lower there with the Xiaomi, but then it has faster reads. Now, this figure here doesn't really matter too much because it's very similar. You're not going to notice this difference anyway with the phones. But yes, the Xiaomi has a slightly faster UFS 4.0 storage to it. And it's only just in benchmarks you're going to see that. And it also has a slightly faster Antutu score. So I did run both of the phones here in their performance mode. So that is to go into battery settings and then set it to the high performance mode for both. And that's just pushing the governor in the performance mode. So it's clocking that CPU all the time at the absolute maximum. Now you can see here that the Xiaomi did heat up the most. It went up almost 10 degrees versus 8. And the score, very similar, but the Xiaomi gets that 1.3 million mark there, which is really good. That's a fantastic score. Slightly faster on the CPU. We're slightly faster here on the GPU with the Vivo X90 Pro Plus. Now, both of them do pass safety net check here. That means you can use banking applications. They've got NFC. So if you did want to use those bank apps, they should be working there for you. That is the Camera 2 API that I was testing out before, just to confirm that it's level 3. Both of them have the full support. So what about the thermals? This is a perfect test to test out, will they throttle? Now, these chips always do throttle, unless they are fan-cooled gaming phones like the Red Magic series. They sometimes don't even throttle at all because they've got a little fan in them. But these are passively cooled, so no fan. You can see here from these results that the cooling in this Vivo is superb. It is so good. It throttles down only 7%. So we only lose 7% performance. And those performance figures, you can see that's the top score versus the lowest. Look at this difference compared to the Xiaomi, that it is huge. The Xiaomi throttles down 20, just over 20% its performance will drop off. And that is normal because it's heating up, but it just shows you how good the Vivo cooling is. It's fantastic, and it maintains a much higher score there too. So what this translates into, that when you're gaming, you'll notice around about, and even it's here, and I've seen it, about the 15-minute mark, 13-minute mark, it starts to throttle when you're playing demanding games, which I'll get onto later on. With the Vivo, you don't really see that at all, that throttling, because it's so minimal. So excellent cooling there. Battery run time. Now, I ran both these phones with the exact same brightness, running their QHD resolutions. So, sorry, their WQHD. Their 1440p resolutions at 120 Hz. And the Xiaomi ran for a lot less. Quite a bit less here. And I noticed this with real-world use too. I can get around 7.5 hours of screen on time versus scraping just over 6, maybe 6.5. A good hour less or so battery life with the Xiaomi, which I think is down to ROM optimization. It seems they're just pushing that performance of MIUI so much that it is impacting the battery life. And it could also be, as I mentioned before, to do with the screens, the screen tech. Perhaps the refresh rates, the variable refresh rates they're using are just so much better on the battery performance with that X90 Pro Plus. Finally, charge times. Okay, this didn't come through correctly, but we're looking at 20 minutes here versus about, off the top of my head, I think it was around 37 or 38 minutes to fully charge the X90 Pro Plus. So the Xiaomi wins hands down here, super quick time, 120 watts versus 80 watts. There is a 40 watt difference, and the battery capacity is actually smaller on this versus the Xiaomi, but it does get, as I showed you, the better battery life. Then our audio. So as part of my testing, I do use SIM cards in these phones, of course, and actually use them as phones. I place voice calls with them. I can't really tell any difference between them when it comes to voice call quality. The other end, when I listen to them, calling myself to test it out, it sounds about the same. They do have active noise cancelling for background noises, and they're good, fine. Now, we don't have, of course, 3.5mm headphone jack. Now, you can use adapters, and both of them here, I will say that having listened to now one after the other, I think the Xiaomi, when using a Type-C to 3.5mm adapter, has the edge. It sounds a little better to my ears. Loudspeaker-wise, there really is not much difference at all. They sound very similar. So downward firing here, we have the earpiece at the top. Both have a bit of bass to them. And both of them, I do wish they were just a little bit louder. Now, I'm going to play first the Xiaomi, then the Vivo. I think the Vivo is just a fraction louder, and that's it. But overall, because of the 3.5mm audio quality to Type-C, I give the audio win to the Xiaomi, which also has a 320 kilobit per second bit rate for its video audio, where this only has 156 for video audio. So here's that sample at 100% volume of the loudspeakers. Gaming performance, the Vivo for me is the clear winner. It has a superior cooling, so you don't get as much throttling as I showed you with that 3D Mark test, that it will throttle down the performance only about 7% versus around 20% throttling with the Xiaomi. And it's even clear and present in games like Genshin Impact right now in the top maximum settings. When I game for around 30 minutes, you'll notice that this one, it doesn't seem to affect the frame rate at all the longer you game. You'll occasionally get some frame dips, but the Xiaomi, the performance will drop down from around about 60 frames per second in the beginning to then lower 50s. And with the Vivo, it's still going to be around the mid 50s and 60 frames per second. So really good performance. It is the gaming champ out of the two phones. Comparing then the cameras, which I've actually done in a camera comparison with both of these phones against the Mate 50 Pro, the Vivo X90 Pro Plus was superior. It comes out on top of the 13 Pro. So Xiaomi's phone falls behind here. It's definitely second place. And you'll see with front-facing cameras, both of them aren't brilliant at all, because both of these phones, both 32 megapixel sensors, their front-facing cameras, cannot shoot, at the time of this video, 4K 30 or 4K 60. And the Xiaomi goes a step even worse, is that it can only shoot 1080p 30 with a front-facing camera. At least we get 1080p 60 with the Vivo. Now, the Vivo's quality with the front-facing camera is superior. Its selfies are superior. Portrait photos, I think, most of the time are also better too with that. Now, some of the options we get with the Pro mode, I just wanted to go into this too because it is interesting to see. There's some differences here. So in Pro mode on both, you have your audio meter, which is great. You've got all your different settings. Now, for the photo mode, this is currently in the video. Actually, I'll just show you one thing here too. 8K, 30 frames per second. With the Xiaomi, 8K, 24 frames per second, which is worse. It looks choppy. It's not as fluid. And both of them, when you record in 8K, it will not be using electronic image stabilization. So in photo mode now, with the Pro mode, you've got Leica, you've got Zeiss's optimization, which is good, but the Vivo has super raw 14-bit. Versus just RAW is what you can get here with the Xiaomi. So RAW's a 10-bit file. Now, both of the RAW outputs, they are pixel bin photos. So it's not the native 50 megapixels on both of them, unfortunately for that. So for me, the winner with cameras, hands down, it is the X90 Pro Plus. Better options, better Pro mode options, and just overall image quality and everything seems to be better. However, this has the better audio bit rate. 320 kilobits per second for audio versus 156, but it suffers badly from wind noise, the 13 Pro. So after all that, I think you probably gathered that yes, this is the better phone, the Vivo X90 Pro Plus. Not just for the camera performance, the optimization, and Leica's optimization, but the firmware I feel is a little bit faster, better optimized versus MIUI 14. Even though I'm not a huge fan of Origin OS, it's still not my favorite UI, definitely. That would actually be Color OS. That's normally with Oppo phones and OnePlus ones. But anyway, the thermal's so much better than the Xiaomi. This throttles 7% versus about almost 21%. The performance throttles down, loss of performance that is. So excellent thermals with the Vivo. Games better, has better battery life. It's got the video out. It also has the faster USB 3.2 transfer speeds versus slow USB 2.0. What is going on, Xiaomi, in 2023? Still using USB 2, and both of these don't have 4K with the front-facing cameras. That's a big letdown, but at least you get the 8K 30 frames per second and better Pro Mode features with the cameras with the Vivo. So that is my pick, and yes, it is about $100 more, but trust me, it's well worth it if you're looking at these 1-inch sensor smartphones. You also have a third option, which is the Xiaomi 12S Ultra, which is basically this phone right here. But the 12S Ultra is just like this, really, the same shortfalls when it comes to the Type-C port and video out and front-facing camera and all that.